In the United States today, $600 is often only enough for one grocery run, a tank of fuel, and an unexpected expense that shows up during the month. It leaves no assets behind. It holds no lasting value. It's money that slips through your hands as quickly as it arrives. Yet there is another reality existing quietly alongside this one. In places far from familiar centers, $600 can still touch real land, not payment paperwork, not a monthly renewal service, and not the cost of staying trapped in the same cycle. It is actual ground, something you can stand on, cultivate, and use to begin something that carries your personal mark. A place with weight depth and the ability to slow time instead of accelerating it. Many people think land is just raw material, but at a deeper level, land is dignity. It is mental breathing room. It is the right to choose the rhythm of your own days. It is the feeling of no longer being measured by bills and deadlines. In this video, we will travel through 5 countries where land still starts around $600 per acre. More important than the price itself is what life gives you in return: total monthly living costs, the pace of everyday life, and a real walkable path to residency. And when this journey ends, choose one destination, just one. Leave the name of the country where you would be ready to place your life on solid ground. Before we go any further, there's something important we need to make clear. This video is not here to sell fantasies. It's here to explain how this actually works in the real world. First, when we talk about land prices, every number you hear is starting from. Land is never one price. It changes by region, by infrastructure, by access to water roads and services, and by local law. When you hear around $600 per acre, understand what that really means. Rural land, agricultural land, places that haven't been polished for mass demand. Second, let's be very clear about residency and citizenship. Buying land does not magically give you a passport. No country works that way. What cheap land can give you is a foundation, a reason, and a place to stay legally. From there, real residency paths exist, and only after time, presence, and participation does citizenship become possible. This is not about shortcuts, it's about choosing systems that still work. And third, every country we show you will be judged by the same standard, not just land prices, but the full picture. You'll see what land costs, what it actually takes to live there each month, how realistic the residency process is, and what you give up in exchange. Because real freedom is not about perfection, it's about informed choices. If you stay to the end, you won't just know where land is cheap, you'll know where life still makes sense. Country 5. South Africa. If you've ever felt that the United States is becoming increasingly cramped, not because there's no land, but because everything is boxed in by money, rules, and pressure, then the Karoo in South Africa delivers a powerful contrast. Here, the landscape opens into dry plains, an unbroken horizon, and night skies so deep you can see the Milky Way with the naked eye. The first feeling isn't poverty or wealth. It's this: you are alone with the world. The Karoo and Northern Cape are not places people come for convenience. These are remote grazing lands where farms still stretch across hundreds or even thousands of hectares. Because of that isolation, you can still find vast parcels of land where the price per acre feels shockingly low by American standards. Not every plot sits near the $600 per acre mark, but when you look at how much land you get for the money, many areas here make the U.S. idea of expensive land seem meaningless. In America, that same budget might buy a backyard. In the Karoo, it can buy a horizon. Legally, South Africa does not sell easy dreams. Citizenship does not come from buying land. The path runs through long-term legal residence, progressing to permanent residence, and only then, after enough years and the right conditions, can naturalization be considered. It's a system built on time and presence, not cash. That makes South Africa a poor fit for shortcut seekers, but compelling for those who want to put down roots slowly and deliberately. Living costs show the contrast with the US even more clearly. In major cities like Cape Town or Johannesburg, expenses can be high and pressures familiar. Step away into small towns or rural areas, and the picture changes completely. A simple, comfortable life often falls between $900 and $1,500 per month, depending on location and lifestyle. It's not ultra cheap, but in exchange you gain space, quiet, and a monthly budget that doesn't squeeze you the way American living often does. Of course, trade-offs are real. Distance matters. Access to advanced medical care requires planning. Safety varies widely by area. Some places are very calm, others demand caution. In South Africa, where you choose to live largely determines your experience. This is not a country to buy into blindly. It's a country that rewards careful selection. But for those willing to trade shopping malls for open skies, neon lights for stars, South Africa offers something many Americans have forgotten: room to exist without being constantly pushed to consume. If you want wide skies more than shopping centers, comment South Africa. Country. 4. Ecuador. Ecuador doesn't begin with noise. It opens with mountains, deep valleys, and stretches of green land reaching toward the Amazon. Here, you don't escape nature, you live with it. Mornings arrive with mist on the hillsides, afternoons slow under soft sunlight across fields, and at night, the forest settles into a quiet that most American cities have long forgotten. What sets Ecuador apart for foreigners is clear property ownership. The country allows non-citizens to buy and own land, homes, and real estate under the same legal framework as locals. This isn't a gray area exception, it's a policy recognized in international investment frameworks. In simple terms, you don't need complicated structures just to have your name on a deed. Land prices in Ecuador are uneven, and that unevenness is where opportunity lives. In tourist hubs and near major cities, prices rise quickly. But move away from those centers, especially into interior regions and remote agricultural zones, and costs drop sharply. In parts of the Amazon basin, farmland can be dramatically cheaper than Western standards. Not every plot sits near the $600 per acre range, but the contrast with the US is unmistakable. In America, green land usually means premium prices. In Ecuador, green land often simply means distance. Residency here isn't tied to buying property. It's tied to time. Many summaries point out that naturalization generally follows years of legal residence, but the core idea matters more than the exact number. Live legally long enough, and a path exists. It's not fast, it's not flashy, but it's real. Living costs are where Ecuador truly separates itself from the United States. Outside heavy tourist areas, rent commonly runs $250 to $500. Food from local markets averages $180 to $300. Utilities, water, internet typically fall between $60 and $120. Altogether, a calm, green, practical life often lands between $700 and $1,200 per month. In the US, rent alone can exceed that. In Ecuador, it buys breathing room. Of course, no place is perfect. Terrain varies sharply, natural risks differ by region, and legal checks on land titles are essential, especially near protected zones or borders. But for those willing to do their homework, Ecuador offers something rare in today's world: green land without needing to be rich. If you want green land with lighter living costs, comment Ecuador. Country. 3. Argentina. Argentina is a country of contrasts. In Buenos Aires, property prices climb, life moves fast, and the city feels like a European capital transplanted into South America. But step away from those crowded streets and head deep into Gran Chaco, or the country's remote interior, and Argentina reveals an entirely different face. Dry winds sweep across open plains so vast the eye can't find an edge. The horizon stretches endlessly, and the first thing you notice is simple: there is more land than people. That distance creates a powerful contradiction. Argentina has some of the most expensive land in the region, yet it also has places where land remains affordable precisely because few people choose to live there. In these isolated interior areas, where infrastructure is basic and services are limited, starting prices around $600 per acre can still appear. This isn't a nationwide promise. It's not what you'll see on the front page of real estate listings. It's an option for those who understand they are buying space, not convenience. Argentina doesn't sell you a finished city. It offers room to shape your own life. And that philosophy extends into its approach to residency and citizenship. Here, nationality isn't granted by writing a check or purchasing property. It comes through time and presence. Argentina is well known for allowing people to apply for citizenship after a period of legal residence often mentioned as around 2 years, though the actual outcome depends on courts and individual circumstances. The idea is clear: you don't buy your way in, you live your way in. When it comes to daily costs, Argentina, especially outside Buenos Aires, remains accessible for many people priced out of Western cities. Rent in secondary cities or interior towns typically falls between $250 and $500. Food from local markets averages $180 to $300. Utilities generally run $60 to $120. All in a simple, comfortable lifestyle often lands between $700 and $1,200 per month. Compared to U.S. cities where rent alone exceeds that, the contrast is impossible to ignore. That said, Argentina isn't for those who demand stability above all else. Inflation, currency swings, administrative bureaucracy, and major differences between provinces are realities you must accept. Each region operates by its own rhythm and risks. But for those who understand the system, Argentina offers something rare: the chance to stay long enough to truly belong. If the idea that time itself can open the door to citizenship speaks to you, comment Argentina. Country. 2. Paraguay. Paraguay doesn't show up in glossy travel magazines. There are no skyline towers, no crowded beaches, and no promises of a luxury lifestyle. What it offers instead are wide plains, endless sunlight, red dirt roads, and a feeling that's hard to find in the modern world. No one is in a hurry. Time here isn't pushed forward by work schedules or end-of-month bills. It moves slowly, evenly, and quietly. That's exactly why land in Paraguay makes many Americans stop and rethink everything. In the United States, $600, $800 disappears in a few days of basic expenses. In rural agricultural and cattle-raising regions far from cities in Paraguay, that same amount can sometimes buy an entire hectare of land. A hectare, not a monthly rent payment, not a security deposit. It's inexpensive, not because the land is worthless, but because it's far from urban centers, light on services, and requires you to build your own infrastructure. No one sells convenience here. They sell land, and the rest is up to you. In return, everyday living costs in Paraguay can feel almost unreal to someone used to American prices. In small towns or on the outskirts of cities, monthly rent typically ranges from $200 to $450. Electricity, water, and basic internet come to around $60 to $120. Food from local markets, meat, vegetables, fruit runs about $180 to $280. Transportation is simple and low stress, usually $60 to $120 more. Altogether, a comfortable but modest lifestyle often falls between $650 and $1,050 per month. When average rent in the U.S. alone exceeds $1,900, this isn't just cheaper, it's a completely different frame of reality. When it comes to residency, Paraguay is often described as a country that breathes more easily than many of its neighbors. The process can be simpler and less aggressive, but it should never be seen as a shortcut. Rules and paperwork can change year to year. Paraguay works best for people who want to slow down. First, settle into life, understand the system, and only then think about long-term options like citizenship. This is not a place that promises speed. It's a place that offers time. Of course, there are trade-offs. Infrastructure in remote areas is limited. Land records must be checked carefully. Not all agents are transparent. Paperwork can test your patience. But those same realities are exactly why land here hasn't been driven to extreme prices like it has in so many other parts of the world. Paraguay doesn't try to impress you. It simply exists at its own pace. And for those willing to trade convenience for space, low living costs, and a slower life, it may offer far more than the numbers suggest. If you want a place with wide land, low costs, slow living, comment Paraguay. Country 14. Bolivia. Bolivia does not welcome you with glamour. It opens itself like a raw, powerful landscape. On the Altiplano, wind sweeps across vast high plains where the sky feels closer than the ground. Move down into the green valleys, and life softens slower, quieter, tied closely to farming and small communities. And in Santa Cruz, Bolivia changes its tone again, warmer, more tropical, more energetic, yet still deeply local. This is a country where nature is not arranged for visitors. It exists exactly as it is. That is why land in Bolivia can be surprising. In areas far from major centers, places with limited infrastructure and primarily agricultural use, starting prices around $600 per acre can still appear. Not near convenience, not close to cities, and not meant for anyone expecting everything to be ready on arrival. In Bolivia, land is affordable because you accept distance, altitude, and simplicity. This is not a promise of profit, but an opening for those willing to step away from consumption-driven life. Legally, Bolivia is more transparent than many assume, but also firm in its boundaries. Foreigners are allowed to own real estate, yet constitutional law clearly states that land ownership is prohibited within 50 kilometers of national borders. This is not an exclusionary trap, but a sovereignty safeguard. For serious buyers, it is something to understand early, verify carefully, and respect completely. Low prices do not mean loose rules. In return, daily life in Bolivia can feel dramatically lighter than in the West. In small towns and outer areas, monthly living costs typically range from $500 to $900. Housing is modest but functional. Food from local markets is fresh and inexpensive. Basic utilities remain affordable. Transportation is simple and low cost. This is not a luxury lifestyle, it is a sufficient one built around real needs rather than excess wants. Of course, trade-offs exist. High altitude can affect health. Spanish is nearly essential outside major cities. Services are not always fast. But what you gain is rare in the modern world, the absence of constant pressure. Time here is not measured by appointments and deadlines, but by sunlight seasons and community rhythms. Bolivia is not for everyone. But for those willing to exchange convenience for land space and autonomy, it offers something genuine. A reminder that land is not cheap because it lacks value, but because it has not yet been consumed by speed speculation and relentless demand. Cheap land doesn't buy convenience. It doesn't sell shopping malls, instant services, or pre-packaged lives. What it gives you instead is time space and the freedom to choose how you live each day. So the real question isn't where land is cheapest, it's this: what are you willing to trade in exchange for freedom? Leave one country you would choose in the comments, and subscribe to discover Globe Places Top 10 so we can keep exploring this map of freedom together.